Hey everybody, it's Sunday, June 17th, Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. Hot here today, Northern Nevada, beautiful day, but quite warm. So we're inside today and we're working on our Subaru project. I think what we'll do today is maybe we'll assemble a short block and get some pieces together and show you that. Not an awful lot this week, same old story. A lot of time spent working, stuff like that. It's been hot, so we haven't been out here a lot. We did do one thing. Take a look at this. Here, go out. We stumbled across this the other day. Picked this up. Mazda MX-3. We gave a couple $100 for this one. Pretty much bought it as a parts car. It's an identical car to the other car, with the exception of it's a year older, but as far as I can see, nothing's any different. It is an automatic car, running engine, so I don't know what we'll do with that. We'll strip it for parts, or could put it back together and have another runner. I don't know, but it was cheap, stumbled across it, so we brought that home. So that's new. Nothing else really much at all has been going on. We get in here and like I said, this is what we're going to be doing today. We'll be assembling our short block. I got our this would be the left case half for the number 2 and number 4 cylinders. Put that down when we assemble. A camshaft, or crankshaft, all of our other stuff. We've got our bearings in and ready. So I don't know, I think I'll put you guys on a stand and we'll put some of this together. Okay, so we got this here all set. We've got our bearings in, our main bearings. We're going to take a little bit of what we use for assembly lube. Now, everything that I do here, I'm going to tell you straight up, is the way that I do it. There are other ways, there are other methods, there are other stuff used. Not saying my way is the best way or the right way. It's just the way that I do it. So you can take that as it is. We'll generously apply some lube to our bearings. We also need to put a little bit of lubrication in these saddles. This is where our camshaft rides. Camshaft really, per se, doesn't have any bearings, other than the machined portion of the case. So that's that. Now, like I say, as we put this together, this is the left side of the engine is down, which is cylinder number 2, cylinder number 4. Okay? So as we grab our crankshaft, we're going to grab our crankshaft and we're going to pull it up by connecting rods 1 and 3. So we'll take and we'll drop down in very carefully, like so. Super. Now, what we have to do is there's 8 holes in the back of our crankshaft here, where our flywheel and so forth goes on. One of those holes has a large chamfer around it. Now, that hole there is the hole that needs to line up with the dot on our camshaft. So, I've already taken our camshaft and I've marked it right here with the air. And what you need to do is you need to, this is a little tricky, but you need to line up the gears and kind of roll it down and drop your camshaft in. Now, if we've done this correctly, when we line this up and we look straight through that hole, we should see the pin, which we don't. So we are one tooth off. So what we'll do, we're going to roll it up, we're going to move it one tooth, we're going to roll it back down, like so. And now, when I roll this up, I'm looking at the flat of the case halves going across here, okay? As I roll this up, looking through the larger chamfer hole here, okay, I'm looking directly at the dot on the camshaft. So our camshaft is lined up. Perfect. So that's what we need to do there. And while we have it here, I think what we'll do is we'll put a little bit of lube on our cam lobes. While they're nice and exposed. And it's kind of pretty hard to get at these once you get the case half on. A little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. Okay. So that's there. Alright. So, next up, what we want to do, I'm going to turn this around and see better. Where are the case half bearings? Okay, turn it around. This being the front of the engine, of course. This is the back of the engine. Now, what we want to have is we want to have our 1 and 3 connecting rods standing right up straight like that, which they don't really want to do. So I'll take a little bit of our assembly lube, kind of squish it in between that, the other side. Quite often, that'll give you a rod that'll stand up while you're doing what you want to do. So this one here is not too bad because this one's down at the moment. So we'll put a little bit in there, smear it in. That'll be fine when we get to that point. Okay. So, we have a water passage here that passes coolant through the blocks. There's a metal guide plate. Drops in there. Then we have a little seal. It goes between the two blocks, and what I do with the seal is I get it nice and wet. I use petroleum jelly of some sort on it to lubricate that little seal. Goes in just like so. And it'll keep it in place as well, although now with this part we don't really need to worry too much about that. Man, it's hot. So, alright, with that done, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our other case half ready. Move this guy back here. Now these cylinders, I have, I took and did a light hone on the cylinders just to clean them up, make everything really nice, get everything really clean. One thing you got to be careful of, you see me using this rag. A lot of times I just use these. These here aren't too bad. Just got to pay attention. You don't want to use rags that put a lot of lint and so forth in your work surface. You want to keep it, try to eliminate all that if you can. The center bearing goes in. Soft plastic, just line it up there. Bearing goes in the front of the engine here. And this is the one that goes into the rear. These bearings are all being reused. They're in perfect shape. This is the hone I use on the cylinders. It's a very, very fine hone. Just use it on a power drill. Cleans them up really nice. Okay, that's got our bearings in here. We'll take and put a little lube on our bearings. Once again. Say this is the lube that I like to use. I've seen other lubrications used. People like. This is just what I use. It's always worked well for me and haven't had any problems. And so we just kind of roll with this. Okay, all of our surfaces. Okay, have some lubrication on it. Good. Never want to put your bearings on a crank or a camshaft dry for sure. You always put some kind of lubrication on them. If this were a new camshaft, I probably would have put more of a break-in type lube on the lobes. But seeing this is camshaft rather is being reused, it's already broken in. Going back basically the same as it was, so we don't really have much issues with anything there as far as braking. Okay, so we got everything there. Now, next up, what we're going to do is we're going to put some sealer on our black halves. Sealer that we use is the gray sealer. Subaru uses what they call 3-bond, Fuji bond, if you will. There's a number of manufacturers out there that make the gray sealer that works pretty good, and you don't want a ton of it on. These are pretty finely machined surface here, so you just get a little bit. There's a little goes a long ways. If you put too much of it on, what it tends to do is it squishes out, and then you got gobs of it inside, which can cause some problems, and stuff like that. But just a little bit right here, but not very much. It's just going to end up being a film. That's all it's going to be. I'm going to do it to all the mating surfaces, all the way. Make sure your surfaces are good and clean. There's one surface like here that's an internal surface only. I don't put any there. What you're basically doing on these interior surfaces is you're sealing the bolts that go through. Like I say, you want to be careful not use too much of it. You don't want to block off any oil passages, anything like that. Good there. Now I got a couple spots where I think we're a little bit too close to the bearing. Walk that back a little bit. Back. You don't want to squeeze and sealer onto your bearings when you tighten your case halves. So. Okay, that's good. Okay. Alright, there's that. So, now, we're having a good day. This may not work as well as it usually does because it's really hot today. Stand our two rods up. I'll squeeze them actually in a little bit. Find that sweet spot. Once we get our case half down over them and in the cylinder, they can do whatever they like, but until then they gotta stand. Find that one spot. Maybe a tad more stuff on this guy. This lubricant here, basically what I find is if you get a lot of it in there, what it does when your engine gets hot, it just basically melts. Blends with the oil. maybe we've got it. All right. So now, take our other case half and head on down where our dowels goes onto, just like so. Good. Good. All right. So now we've got some bolts. And what we do with our bolts, put just a hint of a lube torque of some type on the head of the bolts and in the threads. There's 3 different lengths of these bolts. And it's one thing that they like to do with a lot of these Asian vehicles, I've noticed anyways, is they like to kind of mix it up hardware wise. So you always got to pay attention to a particular piece of hardware that you're putting in, that you have the correct length bolt where it goes. A lot of your manuals and stuff will be pretty good with this as far as laying all that stuff out for you. Some aren't. So okay, just run those down. Tighten them. This one here. Got to keep as kind of 90 degree as we can. Goes on the bell housing. May actually have to be moved once we get things going. There's six bolts basically that hold the main portion of your assembly together. One of the bolts is right down in here, down inside the cylinder. Kind of hard to see. Drop it down in. Of course, you keep your bolts, clean your bolts up nice, and you make sure your holes in your block halves are nice as well. And there's 2 bolts, these 2 guys here, that actually will go this way, up in from the bottom. There's a little bit of lube torque. Get in. As we're tightening this up, I'm looking around and I'm getting just a hint of sealer squeezing out on the case halves, which is good. That's all we want, just a little bit, not very much. Okay. So there we have our 6 bolts are in. When you have everything positioned correctly with these case halves will sit down just like it just did. So now what you do, torque on these bolts is 29 to 35 foot-pounds. I use an extension because you have to drop down in on that one there. So what I tend to do is I actually go to 35 foot-pounds. I find with the extension it probably is going to end up being a little bit less. You do kind of a cross pattern as you torque. Come down through. Our first one, sometimes kind of hard to hang on to. Okay, there's that one. Then we'll do the second center one. There's the second one. Then, basically you go in a star pattern. Come over here on this one here. There's that one. Then we go back on the opposite diagonal. There's that one. Come across. Over to this guy. And our last one. This one, like I said, this one here will torque now, but we may have to loosen it and retighten it. There's that one. Okay. So there we have it. That's basically our short block. We do have some other smaller hardware that goes in here and here and here. We'll go get all that out and get that laid out, and then we'll put that in. Alright, so what we've done now, we put some more hardware in. We got those small 8mm bolt here and one here. Put those two in down here and here. There's a couple of 6mm. Put those in. 6mm torque, I think they're like 4 foot-pounds. And there's another 8mm with a nut here that holds the pickup tube on. Put that in. Those torque to 17 to 20 foot-pounds. And around the back, turn. I don't know how well it'll pick it up through the hole, but in through, this is the chamfer hole I was talking about here. You can see the dot. And there's also 2 screws, one there and one there, that go in with a lock plate and retain the camshaft. So there. That's basically our case halves are now together, and next up we'll install our pistons. Once we get those in, we'll actually have a short block and we can move on. So until then, thanks for watching, guys.